Kobe, do you feel race control was inconsistent, or is this more blown up rather than the controversy that we potentially saw and people are talking about?
Well, Joe, I'm going to start off by saying this. Last night, was I watching an NTT IndyCar Series race at Gateway, or was I watching a Saturday night feature at Hickory Motor Speedway? Because it was a typical short track Saturday night because you had controversy, you had hot tempers, you had Will Power mad at Joseph Newgarden, Will Power mad at David Malukas. David Malukas upset with Will Power, mostly upset that he lost the chance to win his first race. It was just seemed like you had multiple drivers who were angry at one another. But hey, that's what you really like with this short oval / short track racing and all of that. But to answer the question you asked, I do think that race control was very inconsistent in how they handled this. I think that it really hasn't been a banner year for IndyCar race control because we've seen this happen earlier in the year, where there's these questionable calls or questionable no calls. And I think and then that they'll call this and they won't call this, and you're confused because you want to see more consistency. But I really do feel like that it was very inconsistent towards the end of the race. I was a little surprised that there wasn't a penalty for Will Power because it was obvious when they're looking at the replay. It seemed like he really did squeeze David Malukas and run him out of track, and that's why he ended up spinning. But when you're in David Malukas' shoes, of course you're gonna go to the inside and try to send it. And Brandon right there said Power received his karma. And I'll be honest, exactly when I saw that Power was involved in that crash, I thought the exact same thing. So I guess Power got his penalty there out of the race with that restart stack up. But yeah, that was weird that they didn't call a penalty on Will Power there. And then the restart with Joseph Newgarden. It seemed like that's what most people are really fired up about it. From my perspective, when I was watching it happening live, it really seemed like Joseph Newgarden was playing some games on the restart, like trying to time it at the right time where he can get the advantage and jump out front. And obviously some of the drivers felt like he was like you say, Joe was brake checking them, and it was very frustrating to them. But according to the media outlet Trackside Online, presented by Honda Racing /HPD, they said the IndyCar confirmed that Joseph Newgarden maintained a consistent 80 mile per hour speed on the lap 251 restart. And additionally, IndyCar stated that he hit the green light, which was deployed simultaneously to Newgarden hitting the throttle per telemetry review. So according to IndyCar there, Joseph Newgarden did nothing wrong from their perspective. So that's why he did not receive a penalty for playing games on the restart there. But I'm sure people are still going to disagree with that regardless of what IndyCar say. And then the aggressive block that Cole Herta threw on Linus Lundqvist, I actually thought that this was a good call. I'm sure some people will disagree with that, but going down the backstretch there, Linus Lundqvist, he was clearly trying to make the overtake on the inside, and Cole Herta just kept coming down. I was had quite an aggressive block there. So I thought I had no problem with that penalty, but I think the big problem is, like, why are you calling something like this, but you didn't call anything on Power and you didn't call anything on Newgarden? And I think that's where a lot of people start running issues. And of course, people are going to point the fact, who owns the series? Penske Entertainment. And who are the two drivers involved that did not get called? Team Penske driver Joseph Newgarden, Team Penske driver Will Power. So I think that's where some people are like, I don't really know about all of this, given the inconsistency of these calls. So it was definitely quite a cat at night, in the St. Louis area.
It was very chaotic, and as you said, it seems similar from something like a short track Saturday night racing where you get that late caution and then we just get chaos. And for the Will Power David Malukas incident, they enter side by side. I thought he's going to get a penalty because at one point it looked like as they were approaching turn one, Malukas had a little bit of a lead edge going into that corner. But of course, Power with the momentum, the contact, I thought that was going to be a penalty. Same time, I also know too, a lot of people were seeing David Malukas as a sentimental favorite because you saw that post-race interview. He was emotional that he did not get that finish.
On the verge of tears, right?
Verge of tears. He raced his heart out. He knew this was his best opportunity. And considering where he was at the start of the year, thinking he was on the highest of high with McLaren, decides to go mountain biking, just flat out ruin his year. That would have been a huge win. I was thinking, I think everyone's making a bigger deal because this would have been an absolute feel-good story if he had gotten that win, because we know McLaughlin, Newgarden, most likely could not make it. did not restart when Will Power is saying his own teammate was causing this, messing this up. That says something. And Will Power, I gotta give it to that. I don't remember the NBC reporter's name. Was it Dylan Welch that interviewed Will Power?
Yeah, and if you could read Will Power's lips on the camera, it really sounded like, I don't know for sure, but it really looked like he told Dylan Welch to f off. And to Dylan's credit, he stuck with it and still ended up getting the interview. Yeah, and also to Will Power's credit as well. I think he realized in the moment, that he was in the wrong, and he actually Dylan conducted a very nice interview, and Will Power, gave him some really good answers there. So I give credit to both of them in that moment.
Yeah, Will Power was so angry. Dylan Welch, I believe, tweeted or commented on a post somewhere that he saw the angry eyes on it. And it's like, and that's something else. I still remember a few years ago, we got a very angry James Hinchcliffe interview. That was something else. So Dylan getting that interview with Will Power shortly after that, big shout out for him, the job he does. But overall, I just feel this was just turned from a really good race, very similar to another race last weekend that got marred in controversy in the finish, but a very good race. So much to talk about. And then this finish, and again, as you say, people making the comparison: who owns the series, who owns those teams that are involved in no penalty calls, and won this race.